Hey, we're here with Ron Sexsmith. Ron, thanks so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, my pleasure.
The film Love Shines really sums up the career to this point, I think, and what's going on in terms of, you know, how acclaimed you are, how prolific you are, and yet you're not widely accepted as, you know, this great rock musician in Canada or worldwide. I mean, even with your friends. Can you explain it at all?
Well, I think when I see the movie, I go, well, no wonder, look at me in this movie, you know, because I think, I don't know, that's been the kind of dilemma or whatever that's been sort of dogging my whole career, you know, and people, but at the same time, you know, when people would say, oh, I don't know why you're not more famous or successful.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why they think I should be more sometimes.
Fair
you know,
enough.
I'm pretty hard on myself in many ways. But when I got signed, I was already 30 or 31, which isn't old. But in the music industry, you know, they're signing people that are like 15 or 16.
Yeah.
So it is kind of old. I remember the label putting a sticker on my record saying I was 27. I thought, well, there's not a huge difference between 27 and 31, you know. But you know, so I was just grateful that I got in the door when I did, and I knew that the kind of music I was doing wasn't really what radio was playing. It wasn't fashionable, because I'm like 46, and the stuff I heard that I liked was came from a different place.
Right.
So I was just grateful to get in the door and to be making records, and you know, I always hoped that maybe by fluke I would have a song that would get played or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I just think my career is kind of you know, is exactly where it probably, you know, should be. You know, I'm sort of a cult artist, but I always try, you know, like this record with Bob was me dreaming big, you know, trying to make a record that people who never got me before, maybe they would get it or something. But I think other people seem to worry about that kind of stuff more than I do, you know.
Does that stuff even matter to you? I mean, you're a guy who's friends with Elvis Costello and Paul McCartney, and you write great music. I mean, does the attention from a wider audience really matter to you?
It's never been about fame or anything, you know, because I've always, especially these days where fame doesn't mean anything anymore, because you could be famous for, you know, you're on some reality shows, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you used to have to be famous for doing something, you know.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of, it doesn't hold any currency anymore.
Right.
But you know, you'd like to think, though, you know, because it is a job and you're working towards something that, for me, it's just trying to improve my situation. I have a great band. Sometimes I can't afford to have them on the road.
Right.
You know, sometimes you'd like to be playing venues that don't have crude drawings on the dressing room wall. You know, you want to try to feel like you're getting someplace. But it's not about fame, and you know, the money is the other thing. Is everyone wants to make a little more money, or have especially as you get older, you want to kind of feel, you don't want to have night terrors about your financial situation, you know. So that's really all, you know. And I'm fine if it just carries on like this, because I'm making a living, everything's cool. And lastly, I guess it's the thing, you kind of want people to hear the music,
right?
You know, because they're your babies and you worked hard on them, and it's always sad when the record comes out and people are asking, when does your record come out? You know, well, it came out 5 months ago or something, you know. So, but I've never wanted to be a household name. You know, maybe I did when I was 15 or 16 or something, but since I became a songwriter, my priorities shifted, you know.
Late Bloomer is the title of the new record. It's not out till March, but I know that many of the songs are very personal, and even the title itself, Late Bloomer. I mean, here you are in your mid-40s, and you're still making music, and it's still resonates for people other than yourself, obviously. And I mean, how prophetic is Late Bloomer?
Well, Late Bloomer was kind of, I was coming at a weird angle with that song. It was almost it's almost kind of a jokey song for me, you know, because I was sort of I wasn't singing it so much literally, like, oh, you know, now I'm, you know, really beautiful all of a sudden. It wasn't like that. It was just more, you know, I think in the past I've been naive about certain things and thinking that, you know, it's hard to talk about without sounding like a downer or something like that, you know, but there was a time I remember thinking, when I first got signed Interscope, well, you know, I'm the cred artist. I can, you know, I'm on this label with all these successful people like Snoop Doggy Dogg, you know, I don't have to sell millions of records. I can just be this cred guy, and they like having me around. And then after a while, it didn't mean anything anymore. You know, there was a quote by one of the record executives, who shall remain nameless, that we don't want to make art, we want to sell records so we can buy art. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so a late bloomer is kind of about, you know, it's about a guy who's been kind of bashed around a little bit, or has been through the ringer.
Yeah.
And, you know, I got the idea when I was sitting at a coffee shop and I heard these sort of, in the song I call them rose-colored dreamers, you know. I heard these people going on about, they were so upbeat about something, you know, and I was kind of this curmudgeon going, oh yeah, well, you'll find out, or whatever, you know. And that's kind of where the song came from. And, but again, it was coming from a sort of a humorous place. And yeah, it was just a fun song to write. It was the last song I wrote for the record.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to eavesdrop, but that's my job, I guess.
Yeah, well that's the kind of, it's one of the things, if you're a writer, you know, you are kind of like this sort of, you know, spy or something. You're overhearing conversations, and sometimes I've written songs just passing a person on the street.
Yeah.
You know, I'll hear them say something that, and I'll walk away just singing what the person just said, you know. So that happens all the time. Yeah.
What did Bob Rock bring to the table in terms of production and
Well, Bob brought a lot of his expertise, really. You know, I mean, here's a guy who's had so much success, and I was really curious, you know, you know, I mean, especially when I gave him the demos. I was wondering, first of all, if he was going to like the songs, you know, and the other thing about Bob is I didn't want to compromise at all, you know. I told my manager, I go, well, whatever Bob wants, you know, I don't want to do anything. There's no point in using Bob Rock unless we use the musicians he wants to use and make it in the studio. You know, I wanted to kind of go at it like we were Metallica or something. Let's just, we'll go to LA, we're going to record and all this stuff, you know, and to pull out all the stops. But the thing about Bob, he's got such an even-handed, you know, he's a very calming force. He's a great guy, and I felt like I wanted to, I would do anything for him, you know, like I wanted him to show me, you know, and he was a great cheerleader in the studio, and all the musicians felt that way, you know, and there's no secret why he's so successful, you know.
The record has this alt country feel, this real Canadian feel to it. Were you mindful of what's going on in terms of, you know, Blue Rodeo's last record, or even just the influx in the industry now of some really great alt country records, whether it's, you know, the Wilco records or Ryan Adams or other singer-songwriters that are sort of embracing that and being okay about being Americana or being Canadiana or whatever.
Yeah, it's funny because I hadn't really thought about that. I mean, I just thought we were making a big pop record, you know. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I totally get that. I mean, I hear it in Get in Line and Feel Their Songs.
Yeah.
Middle of Love and that.
Is it the piano? Is it?
I don't know what it is exactly. I mean, I guess when I'm rocking out, maybe it turns into. I grew up listening to a lot of country music, and I mean, I made a record with Steve Earle, Blue Boy, that had a bit of an alt country thing as well. Yeah. But it's kind of like I'm coming at it from a different place than Blue Rodeo, who is more coming from a country place. I think, like for me, when I'm playing something that's country, I always feel like, you know, when the Beatles or the Kinks tried to play something that was country, it's, you know what I mean? Like they're doing the right thing, but it still sounded. So I don't know. It's a bit of a, you know, a crock pot of different things. You know. So, but I just think, you know, I love Buddy Holly. I mean, I'm coming from that place, you know, from my distant past, you know, and I think it's in there, and it just came out on this record, you know. How
hard is it for you to sit down and write a pop song? I mean, you're a guy who is such a prolific writer, and gets the pop sensibility and gets all that. Is that something that is just innate, that you just get, or is it something that you've learned over time?
It's kind of innate because all my heroes were very, I thought, you know, strong melodically. I mean, my idea of a pop song doesn't seem to match up with what is pop these days. Yeah. You know, people think of pop as Lady Gaga or whatever, and that's a kind of a music that I don't really, I'm not in that world, you know.
Sure. I mean pop in the more traditional sense.
But yeah, I come from a traditional pop thing where I always liked songs that had just real distinct melodies and some kind of attitude to the vocal, you know. you know, but it is kind of what I do, you know. There's something that I stumbled upon, you know. I mean, I always loved to sing, but when I found I could write songs, you know, I kind of wear my influences on my sleeves, I think, you know.
Yeah.
And people can hear, I think, when I'm singing, they hear that I'm a Nilsson fan or that I'm a Beatles fan or whatever. And but hopefully, you know, because I'm doing it long enough, hopefully it also sounds like me, you know, or something. And also that I'm from Canada, because I'm also a huge fan of Lightfoot and all the old guard, you know, Leonard and everyone. Those people, those are the people I think I've tried to follow in their footsteps more than anyone. Yeah.
What are you listening to now when you're not making your own music? Are there contemporary artists, you know? I mean, or is it the stuff like Leonard's old stuff or Beatles stuff that you go back to?
Yeah, I'm still kind of very old-fashioned, you know. I mean, I'm listening a lot to John Lennon's been reissuing his records, so I've been really diving into that, you know. And just, it's amazing, you know, the stuff that they all put out, you know. So I've been listening to that. Elton John, you know, I was a member of his fan club as a kid, and I've never left him, you know. So he just put out a record with Leon Russell that I've been listening to, and all the people that have inspired me. Whenever they put out a record, I'm always, you know, I don't have to listen to it first. I'll just go get it, you know. But there's you know, there's new bands that I hear from time to time. Usually, I have to stumble upon it, you know. I mean, I love they're not really a new band, but I love the Super Furry Animals a lot, and
again, pop.
I thought She and Him had a good sound, you know, and you know, Broken Bells have a good sound. You know.
Cool. Thanks so much for taking the time and continued success, whatever that means, whether that's personal success or widespread success. I mean.
Yeah, it's a big question. Yeah, it's a big word. Yeah.
But continue doing whatever you're doing and making great records.
I'll try.
And we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome.
Explore Music wears English Laundry apparel.